In this episode of the Weekly Windup, you're going to learn how to use fear as a tool to move you towards your goals and what you want most, instead of keeping you from them.
Ukulele or ukulele?
Jen, you're so close. Yeah, I mean, that's totally. Give me my mouth guard. Look, gator hunting. Katie is conquering her fears today.
I don't want to turn my back to him. What if he comes at me?
What's your weekly wind-up tip of the week?
Do things that you're scared of, because fear's about growth.
My name is Coach Jen, and welcome to the Weekly Windup, where we help you get the tools, the team, and the toughness you need to win in school, sports, and life. We are just now wrapping up with our Southeastern tour, our Besties Never tour, where we got to visit athletes in Alabama and Tennessee and St. Louis, Missouri and Louisiana and Georgia. And of course, in Alabama, Katie got to go head-to-head with her fear of alligators. Now, we saw an alligator in real life, but the funniest part wasn't the real-life alligator. It was when Katie looked over
And I was talking, and I was like, out of the corner of my eye, I saw this, and I was like, oh! And I jumped, and I was terrified, and I almost started crying.
it was a statue. It was a statue. And the funniest part was, on her heart rate monitor, we went back and we could see that moment when she looked over and she thought that statue was real. She thought the statue was real. See, our brain is wired to prepare our body to do three things when we get scared: fight, flight, or freeze. Now, in the case of a potential alligator attack, we probably want to get ready to flight as fast as possible. However, when you're performing in a game, that is not what you want. You want your heart to prepare you to battle, to fight. Remember last week in the Weekly Windup, we talked about sometimes you have to fight for what you want most. But the challenging thing is, sometimes our brain cannot process what is something that we should truly be afraid of, and what is something that's more like the statue. It's just not real. It's not something that we should be concerned about. And so the tool I want to give you guys today is the awareness of how to name your fear. So that way you can use fear as a tool to move you towards your goal instead of keeping you from reaching it. So when it comes to things that we're scared of, there's three primary fears. Number one is the fear of loss. So in the situation of an alligator, you don't want to lose your legs or your hand or your life. But in games, maybe it's you're scared you're going to lose the game. Maybe you're scared you're going to lose your position, or maybe you're scared you're going to lose a friend. The first fear that our brain will start to try to protect us from is the fear of loss. The second one is, there's a bug. I was scared of a bug. The second one is the fear of process. So it's like when you set a big goal and you're like, oh, I want to get stronger and I want to do a bunch of push-ups and I want to have guns. And then you're scared like, well, actually that sounds miserable and I don't want to do push-ups every single day. The reason why you might not be taking steps forward is because you are scared that the process will be painful. And the third and final type of fear that we can name today is the fear of outcome. It's like whenever you get ready to go up to bat and you're scared that, well, what if you strike out? What if you make a mistake? Or if we zoom out for a second, what if you work really hard at something and you don't get the result that you're working so hard for? And then you lose all of that time. Or what if you go tell your parents about something that you've been holding back and they're disappointed? Fear is a natural human tool. Its job is to tell you to pay attention. So the cool thing is once you learned how to name your fear, you can use your fear to motivate you, to push you towards the things that you actually want. So Katie and I went for a walk with EC, one of the athletes that was hosting us, and her mom. And we asked EC, what's something you're scared of?
I'm scared of sharks.
Yeah.
But I still swim in the ocean, so I don't think that's...
And the more you do it, the
less you fear.
After our walk, her mom asked me, she said, Jen, what's something that you are scared of? And I really had to think about this. One of the things I've learned from high-performing athletes is they use fear as a tool to move them forward. Now, first, let me share with you one of the most dangerous times for you when you could lose momentum to what's most important to you is during a time of transition. And here is why. Whenever you are shifting from a school year into the summer, or maybe a family member is going into a new job, or maybe you're moving, or you're going into a new team. This new situation, although it's very exciting, is also new. And new and unfamiliar can make us feel scared. It's natural, it's normal to feel nervous or scared or fearful when we're in an unfamiliar situation. The difference between average performers and high performers is high performers always use their fear as a driver, and here is how. The average performer will say, well, what if I give it my best and then I'm not successful? The high performers will say, what if I don't give it my best and I never know what I'm capable of? The difference is necessity. My biggest fear right now is becoming complacent. My biggest fear is, what if I get too comfortable and I never know the impact that my team, that you guys could have? I never get to see that because I become too comfortable or too complacent, and I don't push myself outside of my comfort zone enough. That something will happen that will keep me from showing up. And the cool thing is once I know that, now I can name it. What is that? Is it a fear of loss? Is it a fear of the process? Is it a fear of the outcome? For me, it's a fear of loss of potential. It's a fear of loss of what could be. It's a fear of potential outcome in the way that I don't want it. And so once I can recognize that, I can flip fear on its face, just like you can, and focus on what I do want to have happen, focus on what I want to create, and show up to create that reality for me and for you. So here's the challenge that we have for you this week. Recognize a transition that you are in, because one thing I know is we are always changing, things are always developing, you are always in some kind of a transition. And now let's recognize which parts of that journey are unfamiliar to you. Is it that you're going to be with a new team? Is it that you're in a new position? Are you going to build a new routine? What's unfamiliar to you? And which part of that creates the most fear inside of you? Because when it comes down to fight, flight, or freeze, we want to use fear as a tool to get you to show up and fight for what you want most. In the comments below, post which part of that are you most fearful of? Is it a fear of loss? Is it a fear of process? Or is it a fear of outcome? Once you realize that that fear isn't really a real concern, you can start moving forward towards what you want most.
It was fun and I learned a lot. I felt more comfortable instead of like being upset about my last hit, and after I'm upset about it, I do worse after that, but I learned from it and I got better hits.
It's very motivational. It gives them like a little push that they need over the line.
Probably the biggest thing that I took away was the questions that you're asking yourself. And really the girls that I've been trying to drive it home is the things that they ask themselves, you're going to get those answers back. And just to hear her say that just really resonated with me.